What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Swan Signal Live. I am your host, senior analyst at Swan Bitcoin, Sam Callahan. Before we get into the show, I want to bring up our sponsors. One is Cloak Wireless, which is a privacy-focused provider where you can pay with Bitcoin. So they protect against SIM swaps, which are a really serious attack. If you haven't been through it, then you're lucky. I know a lot of people that have, and it can be really disruptive to your life. And so Cloak Wireless is a wireless company created by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, whether it's to secure your primary phone number or just a low-cost secondary secure SIM. Everyone should protect themselves against SIM swap by using Cloak Wireless. So give them a check out right here. You can get a 25% off if you use the discount code SWAN. Also, Pacific Bitcoin, that's October 18th and 19th. That's in beautiful Santa Monica. It is the festival that Swan throws every year. It's going to be a great event. If you use the promo code SIGNAL, you can get 10% off. And if you pay with Bitcoin, you can get an additional 21% off. So go check out pacificbitcoin.com. Check out the speakers, side events, workshops, and it's just a great time to get to know Bitcoiners in real life. So for this show, I got a very special guest. You probably watched his videos. I've watched his videos when I'm trying to learn how to use something before. Nobody does it better. And in terms of Bitcoin education, he has filled that niche beautifully. And that is Ben, BTC Sessions. I'm so happy to welcome him onto the show. What's up? How are you?
Yo, man, I'm good. I think we're both just coming down off our jet lag because we were both just overseas doing some traveling. So I'm back.
I mean, you're wearing that shirt. That shirt's amazing, by the way.
Dude, this is the artist that does this. I gotta give him a shout out. Madex, or Space Built. He had the run of the place in Prague, and he does amazing work. So I always gotta shout him out.
Yeah, we got to see each other. That was a great event. I mean, shout out to Mateus and Martin and everybody who worked on that team throwing that event. I thought it was a really high signal, great venue, good size, and gorgeous city.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Prague is I can just plunk me in the middle of that city and I'll just wander for days. It's beautiful there. The event was awesome. Again, like a lot of great talks. I didn't really see I didn't really see like a lot of riffraff going on. Like it was pretty focused. And again, like that thing is like a well-oiled machine. They're very on top of it. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I was excited to go there was because I knew that from talking with Mateus that Prague was like this hotbed for Bitcoin adoption. Like some of these big companies were from there, and why, and learning about the history of Prague and the Czech Republic in general was really interesting. How they went through this communist phase, and they're really distrustful of government and leaders, and they were kind of primed to understand Bitcoin from the very beginning. Like some of the promo videos that they would show between the speakers, I love them. They were so well made and kind of explain that. And I get that sense when I was talking to the locals there, like they just like instinctively understand why a decentralized money is important.
Yeah, they've put in the work there for sure. I was struck by again the amount of people that they're able to draw, and kind of the local infrastructure that they have in and around being able to spend Bitcoin locally. I was pretty impressed. Like there's a website called btcmap.org, and you can look up local merchants that are accepting Bitcoin. And because they orange pilled this payment processor locally, there's all these shops where like if you go to a restaurant or something, there'll be a QR code on your specific table, and that will be allocated to your bill. And when you scan the QR code with the app, it'll give you the option to pay a credit card or whatever, but it now has a secondary option, pay with Lightning, and then it'll just auto open a Lightning wallet of your choice, and you can just pay. And like the restaurant or shop doesn't even know that they are accepting Bitcoin. It just works seamlessly in the background. So like not only does the conference pull in a ton of people, and they've been done. Side note, I met Mateus at Pacific Bitcoin in 2022.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. And he came up to me. He's like, you got to come to Prague. You got to come to Prague. So I ended up going for the first time in 23, and then had to go back this year because it was so good. But yeah, they've put in the work, and they've been doing Czech events for just people from Czech Republic for years, and those ones will pull like a couple thousand people. And so then when they open it up to an English audience and made it more international, it just kind of blew up. Like they put in the work.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, you got like Trezor out of there.
Mhm.
Slush Pool
Yeah.
was created there, the first mining pool.
What are the
All this like
ATMs from?
history, the first like the largest Bitcoin ATM companies from
Yeah.
there, like all these like milestones and builders.
Yeah.
And it's all in Prague, which is
Yeah.
kind of
They kind
fascinating.
of helped build a bunch of Bitcoin's history. It's cool to see.
Yeah. Was there any like talks or conversations that stuck out to you or announcements? Like one for me was like the announcement from Trezor to their Bitcoin only hardware wallet. I
Yes.
don't know if you have thoughts on that. I posted it. I thought it was sleek, but I
Oh
got
yeah.
some like pushback a little bit, honestly, in the replies from some
Yeah.
people. But I wanted to hear your thoughts.
So again, I recognize that everybody has different tastes and everything. I'm a Bitcoin kite fan, but I also like to be objective when it comes to um, other devices and everything. And a couple developments that I've liked in and around Trezor are one, they capitulated and they added a secure element, which is cool to see. They didn't have that previous to the Trezor Safe 3. And
Can you go into a little bit of detail about why that's cool?
yeah, and what that is.
Yeah.
So basically, if a device does not have a secure element, then it is possible for somebody who has physical access to extract the private keys from the device.
Mm,
And so, when for the longest time, when your choices were basically Trezor and Ledger, before we got Cold Card and before we got Jade and before we got all of the other plethora of things that are out there right now, it was you basically had this binary choice, or you were going with some lesser known thing. So the trade off typically was Trezor was open source but didn't have a secure element. Ledger had a secure element but was not open source. And
mm,
now Trezor has added the secure element. So that kind of ticked off that box. And then the other thing that was important to me is that they offered the Bitcoin only firmware. So you can upgrade your device from uh,
right.
having all the altcoin support to just the specific firmware for Bitcoin. And for some people that doesn't go far enough. They just want like a native device that cannot possibly support altcoins. I get it, but I do like that devices will ship firmware specific to Bitcoin only, and I think it's if Trezor is something that you like using, and I do think they're sleek and they work well, then you have the option to do the Bitcoin only firmware, which I would highly recommend. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a good thing to have more, Bitcoin only hardware wallets like available or like
Yeah.
options available, which, one of my personal favorite hardware wallets is the Q. I actually talked about that. You did an excellent video. I was setting it up. I just kind of have you on the
Got it
background.
right
I'm
here.
doing this. I'm doing this right. All right, good. So but I was wondering, like, when you have a multi-sig setup,
Mhm.
is there some benefits to having multiple providers, or is that not as big of a deal? Like if you have like only cold cards as part of your setup, or only uh,
Yeah, I mean,
Trezors.
yeah, I suppose it depends how many tinfoil hats you want to wear, but
Yeah,
like everybody has their spectrum that they're in. So yeah, if you're worried about the idea of a single hardware vendor somehow being malicious and injecting some code that might be able to extract information and then send it back home, then yeah, having multiple vendors in a multi-sig can hedge against that risk. Now, the nice thing about CoinKite and Cold Card and some of their products is that they don't have a native app by design. Like you have to go and choose a third party app you're going to use it with. So I like Sparrow, but you can
same.
use it with
Yeah, I like Sparrow too.
Spectre, and you can use it with
Yeah, Spectre is great. Yeah.
Electrum, and there's you can use it with a lot Nunchuck, lots of different options to use it with. And so what you would need is not only and obviously you can audit the code that governs the cold card, but if they were to inject something that was malicious, and they were trying to extract information from a multi-sig, they'd also have to collude with the third-party wallet, the interface that you're using as well. So that hedges it a bit. But if you're still not satisfied with both of those, small chances of collusion, then that's where you would go multi-vendor, multi-sig. And, at that point, it's like,
yeah. So you're just like, yeah, you're pretty
yeah,
multiple tinfoil hats, I guess. I
you're
mean, like,
pretty
it's always
solid.
good
If
to
you got
think
a multi-sig, you're probably
adversarially.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember MVK was always saying, like, I specifically designed basically all of CoinKite and all the products were like, how could I never maliciously attack anybody? Like, that's like his number one rule.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why I like him. I like that he basically built everything for himself. He's like, I want this, so I'm going to make it for myself so I can have it. And then I guess other people can have it too.
Yeah. He wanted a block clock too, and those are awesome.
Yeah.
They're like the coolest product ever. Everyone has one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm just like I'm just like shilling CoinKite right now. But it's in my background. Like I'm a happy customer, I guess.
Yeah.
There was no affiliation except just being a happy customer.
Yeah.
But this wasn't your only trip, right? Prague was you were coming from another one, right? You were coming from Oslo.
Yeah.
And tell me about that, because a lot of people say that's their favorite conference of the year. So just tell us what that is and kind of some of your takeaways from it.
Yeah. So Oslo is, for me, it is one of the must visits each year. And the reason behind that is it's not a Bitcoin conference at all. Bitcoin is present because it applies to a lot of the people there, even if they're unaware of it. So the Oslo Freedom Forum is put on by the Human Rights Foundation. Of course, Alex Gladstein, heavily involved there, and has been leading up the financial freedom track in and around the Oslo Freedom Forum. And so visiting that event, the first couple days are just stories from human rights advocates, and some of them are just absolutely harrowing. The entire event is incredibly emotionally taxing, and like last year, I remember there were a couple talks where I just had I sat through the talk, and then I just had to physically leave, just to kind of be with my thoughts and like take it all in, because again, like just some of these horrific stories and like the courage of some of the people that are standing up to tyrannical governments around the world and putting their lives at risk by coming there to speak even is pretty incredible. But Bitcoin is there as a tool in the tool belt of human rights advocates. And so I am there typically in the capacity of, during the first 2 days of talks, there's a workshop area in the same venue, and we'll hold workshops on various things, and other Bitcoiners will hold workshops as well. And so I will get to host people and show them, hey, this is how maybe you're going to set up a Bitcoin wallet for the first time, or this is how you're going to deal with additional security or multi-sig or whatever we happen to be covering in some of those sessions. Typically, it's pretty basic because we're onboarding some new people. And then on the third day, for the past couple of years, they have last year they had a dedicated financial freedom track. And then this year they had that on top of kind of like, I guess you get to kind of choose the types of sessions you want to go to. So they had some other options to choose from as well. And so we had a full financial freedom track at a secondary venue where it was all just Bitcoin throughout the entire day, and all of the stories of people and how they've used Bitcoin to help further their cause wherever they are from around the world, whether it be Central and South America or, the global South and Africa or post-Soviet states or whatever it may be. We got to hear stories from everybody. We got to hear people building solutions that are, fixing some of these problems. My biggest takeaway from it would be that it's refreshing to be in a space where Bitcoiners once again get humbled because, it's great being at Bitcoin events and all of us getting together and having our multiple times a year family reunions of sorts. But it's also important that we inject ourselves into spaces where people are less familiar and likely much more skeptical, and chat to them about their real world needs, because there's a lot of stuff where we'll go and say, well, you can use Bitcoin for this. And they say, well, that's great, but what do I do once it gets there? And quite often the answer is, I don't know. We're going to have to problem solve for that. You can get money, you can get value, and you can move it anywhere you need on the globe. But once it's there, it's very jurisdictionally dependent on how you deal with it at that point. And a lot of the time it's like on the ground sleuthing to find peer-to-peer connections to get the products or the local currency that you need to fund your operation. So it's a very
Right.
unique experience being there and being a part of it.
It's like how salable is Bitcoin in different
Yeah.
jurisdictions?
Yeah, exactly. And there's always a way to do it. It's just people may not be familiar yet, and we just need to plug in to the local community. And sometimes it's got to be pretty under the radar because it can be dangerous.
Yeah, what can you give like in like a minute, like just fireball, like spit out some of these examples of how Bitcoin's been used?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So, absolutely. So, I met a girl named Luda, and she works, in ensuring human rights. She defends human rights and freedoms in post-Soviet states, and I guess she had seen my involvement in the Canadian trucker protest, and she had seen that, oh, this method of donation actually functioned in the face of bank accounts being shut down in Canada. And, it was the only digital mechanism where the value actually got to the intended recipients. And so she actually was trying to get protective equipment into Ukraine as the conflict was breaking out, just things like vests and helmets and things like that. And she was trying to do that funding through the traditional financial system. And there was so much red tape. It was so impossible. It was going to take weeks. After having seen what happened with the Canadian trucker protest, she decided to try Bitcoin. She got equipment into Ukraine on day 2 of the conflict.
wow.
And so that's like one example of many.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stories
Yeah.
like this where people come to Bitcoin for different reasons, whether it be hedging themselves against against the currency debasement, or whether it be coming to Bitcoin for its censorship resistant properties. It's really dependent based on where people are, what they need.
Yeah, like I was talking to do you know Mick from Geyser Fund?
Yes. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's great. I was talking to him in Prague, and he told me a crazy story about, somebody on the ground, like I think it was like a cab driver in Gaza,
Mhm.
trying to get essentials, just water and things to people, and he
Mhm.
couldn't figure out a way, and he was a kind of a Bitcoiner. So then they did like a background check on him a little bit. They didn't want to like fund terrorists by any means, or so like, but they checked out. He checked out. They raised funds for this guy. He couldn't get any funds anywhere else,
Yeah.
and he used Bitcoin, and then he got these essentials to people and helped kind of
Yeah.
really help people out in their time of need, and including himself. So it's
Yeah.
like it's stories like that that really it kind of recenters me in terms of like why I'm here and why this is a really important technology.
Yeah.
Because it's those stories that I think really resonate with people when you realize that there's really no other solution available to them in
Yeah.
those jurisdictions or those environments.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it kind of keeps you going.
Yeah, 100%. There's no shortage of pretty incredible stories, and I think it's important to note that Bitcoin isn't always, it's not going to be a silver bullet in every instance, right? It's not going to be like, oh, my government is tyrannical and is kidnapping dissidents. like Bitcoin fixes this. Not exactly immediately, but
Right.
it can be a tool. And
It's
I
a
think
tool,
that's
right?
an
It
important
helps.
way to approach it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another tool. But
Yeah.
in a world where there's not many tools, I would say, for some of these
Yeah,
people.
exactly. If it levels the playing field, because in a situation where your government just has tyrannical control, they already have total control of the financial system. So it's very easy for them to just cut off people that they don't like. What Bitcoin does is it doesn't prevent the tyrannical government from also accessing Bitcoin, but it brings all the little guys that were subject to that tyrannical rule over their money up to a level playing field with the government. And so at least it gives them that. So if uh, I've seen some people, I'd say non-Bitcoiners or pre-coiners, that the question is, well, how do we prevent bad people from using it? And the answer is you don't. That's not how this functions. The whole point is to put everybody on the level playing field. And even if you could prevent somebody from using it, that means the inverse is true. So in a place where somebody's living in a country where they're not allowed to speak out against their government, if we could prevent that dictator from using Bitcoin, that means the dictator can now prevent the dissident from using Bitcoin. So I think that's the important thing to note.
Yeah, and if anybody could do that, I mean, basically it wouldn't be decentralized, right? It would
Yeah,
be there becomes kind of unilateral control,
yeah,
where you could censor people or restrict people from accessing the permissionless network, right? It would throw the whole thing down the drain, essentially.
yeah. It undoes the promise of what Bitcoin aims to bring to the world.
Yeah, I'll never forget. Like a few years ago, there was a group of tech leaders or something who wrote this letter to Congress about how Bitcoin is useless and Bitcoin only aids illicit activity, kind of the typical, it's a waste of energy, the
Yeah,
typical arguments.
of course.
And then in response, there was that letter signed by, I think, 21 human rights activists. Might have been through the Bitcoin Policy Institute.
Sounds right.
But they signed that letter and it was really powerful, basically saying like, hey, we don't agree with that letter, here's all the reasons why, personal stories about how Bitcoin has helped us. So recommend people read that, because it actually led me, I wrote a whole piece saying like Bitcoin is useful today despite what the naysayers say. I wrote like this whole piece in response to the letter about ways that Bitcoin's helping people around the world, because again, it's why I think it like keeps me going regardless of like number go up. It's like this can actually help people. So I
Yeah,
think it's like an important angle. Like it's the Alex Gladstein's and the human rights foundations of how this could actually empower people around the world. I think it's
yeah,
extremely powerful narrative.
yeah. I fully agree. It's again, anybody that hasn't been but is considering going to the Oslo Freedom Forum, you definitely should. Again, you can just get general admission tickets, and they're not that expensive. Obviously, you got to get to Oslo if you're stateside,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful. You should check it out. And I think general admission tickets were like $50 or something.
Oh,
They
it's not
do
bad at
sell
all.
out though. They do sell out.
Yeah. I hear Oslo's beautiful too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm glad you had fun. But now you're back, and let's talk a little bit about the state of Bitcoin education. I'm curious because I feel like you kind of have a unique position given your very successful YouTube channel, and you get probably reached out a lot from people, and a lot of your content's very beginner friendly. So I'm wondering, what have you seen? I mean, we're up your previous all-time highs. Have you seen inflows of like questions from beginners more
Yeah.
than you have maybe during the bear market? Do you see an influx where you
Yes.
can kind of tell where we are in the cycle?
I am I am so bullish on Bitcoin education right now. I'm so excited because I, I see people learning the ins and outs of Bitcoin and the technicals of Bitcoin at a pace I've never experienced before. Um, it's incredible to see somebody that has come into Bitcoin inside of a year. They join in. First of all, they're able to navigate the quote unquote crypto to Bitcoin road very, very quickly. I've never seen it happen this quickly. And it's I think it's thanks to the copious amounts of material that outline why Bitcoin stands above everything else, and so people are able to
Mhm.
get there a lot quicker. Once they get there, there's and it's not just myself at this point. There's a lot of incredible educators that are creating step by step tutorials, whether that be in written form, whether it be in video form, whatever it may be. But there's so much material out there and so many services for people to be able to um, educate themselves, either paid or for free. It's just, I see people that are coming in, learning about key management, learning about hardware, learning about multi-sig, mastering lightning, starting to play with all of these, tangential things like, whether it be liquid or Fediments or cashew, all these other cool little things that are very, very bleeding edge. Um, People are learning so fast, and they're I mean, we know the feeling. We get into Bitcoin and you just want to ingest all of the material. But people are not just doing that for the understanding the economics of it, but they're now putting in practice, let's put my money where my mouth is and actually act on it and understand how to use this stuff. They're not the typical there's some people that get into Bitcoin, they become these Bitcoin Luddites where they learn a few basic things and then they just stand still and they're like, I guess I'll just do this forever. But I'm seeing more and more of the curious. I'm seeing more and more of the people being like, well, maybe now I'll run a node. Maybe now I'll, instead of using, Trezor Suite with my Trezor, I'll switch over and I'll try it with Sparrow because I get to see all the fancy UTXOs and stuff in the background. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think the learning trajectory is it's getting to the point where it's going to go on an S curve, and a lot of people are understanding a lot quicker, and you're also seeing things like, um, I'm going to defer to another company first because I don't want to self shill too much, but like, there's the Bitcoin Way. These guys are doing,
Mhm.
one-on-ones. There are the guys at Bitcoin Advisor. There are, I just saw that Trezor with their new device, they offer, you can, once you buy the device, you can also pay to get like a 1 hour one-on-one with them and they'll help you deal with it. And then myself, this year, I launched my company, Bitcoin Mentor, and we have a team of 16 and we're starting to take a lot of people booking us for one-on-ones that just want to level up and make sure that they're on the bleeding edge and understanding uh, how to secure their Bitcoin properly. And so there's just so many possibilities out there and there's room for all of them. I'm just so happy to see it.
Yeah, that's super bullish that you see like this flywheel happening, or that crypto flywheel. It's shortened because of the education, and then people are more quickly getting to that self custody, using Bitcoin in a sovereign way, and exploring other aspects of Bitcoin, different products, running your own node.
Yeah.
That's awesome, because
Yeah.
I think that's probably a big change from last cycle. Not that it wasn't happening. It's just like, if it's happening faster now. That's
Yeah.
pretty bullish.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even like for us with Bitcoin Mentor, we're seeing like we started, I think we launched 2 months ago and we're starting to get busy. We're starting to get a lot of people kind of coming through the door, booking their one-on-ones, and we're trying to, curate different types of learning tracks. So like not just come in the door and say, "Oh, I just want to learn this one thing," but also offering up like, "Oh, I want to, here's a menu of different things that you can do, different
Mhm.
learning tracks, whether you want to learn about, hardware or multi-sig or running a node or um, you know, building your own hardware or all these different things. There's just endless amounts of material that can be covered. And so I think we're going to see a lot more nuanced and focused educational material, and people will be able to go down whatever rabbit holes they see fit. And I see it every day, and I'm so excited to see people coming to the channel and people booking one-on-ones, but other people creating as well. And I want to be as supportive for other educators as I possibly can. So that's why I like to shout out all the other people, even though we're, in the same space. I think there's more than enough room.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I mean, still early, as they say.
Yes,
So,
100%.
um, so what's some like cool stuff that you see? I mean, in terms of new products, services, developments in Bitcoin, I feel like you have your finger on the pulse of that kind of side of the industry. What are you seeing that excites you?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of different things I guess I could look at, but I think we're at an interesting part in Bitcoin's growth from an educational perspective, because the way we were teaching before, let's be honest, it's not really working anymore. And I'll kind of outline what I mean. Your typical foray into Bitcoin: here's how to set up an on-chain wallet. Here's your seed phrase. Here's a Bitcoin address. Here's how that works. Here's your private keys, blah, blah, blah. Here's how you, delete and recover a wallet, those types of things. Okay, now there's this thing called Lightning, and Lightning's on top of Bitcoin, and you can do faster, quicker, cheaper transactions. And here's how a Lightning wallet works and everything, blah, blah, blah. And we've had some interesting action on Bitcoin fees. They're a little bit more unpredictable. So when you're onboarding somebody, it might change a little bit how you onboard them, and you don't want to make too much of a trade-off, and you want people to have an easy path to self-custody. But I think what we're going to have to do with the emergence of things like Fediments and Cashew, and the more frequent use of things like Liquid when you're using something like Aqua Wallet, these additional systems that, while having trade-offs, are easy for onboarding. I think what we're going to have to do is, instead of starting from the bottom up, because getting somebody to get an on-chain wallet when fees are $50 is basically going to have them not even take the first step of their learning journey. We're going to have to invert the way we've been doing things. We're going to have to start at whatever the top layer is, and then we're going to have a pathway for somebody to dig down deep to get, with the goal of obtaining as much self-sovereignty as possible. And so the way I've started teaching now, and this will likely shift because we're in the middle of building an entire monetary system, and all the layers aren't even close to being completed yet, but I'm kind of starting with an upper layer and working my way down, is in Oslo, I was onboarding people to Mutiny Wallet. And so, for those unaware, Mutiny is a Lightning wallet. There's a couple unique things about it that I thought would be important, in particular with human rights dissidents. Is, number one, yes, you can get it in the App Store, but secondly, you can use it as a progressive web app, meaning you can navigate to a website and then you can add it as an icon on your home screen.
Okay.
And so you can bypass the App Store. The other neat thing about it is, when you're using self-custodial Lightning, you're going to incur a fee to create a Lightning channel if you're not using like Wallet of Satoshi or some custodial thing. And so, in order to smooth that over, they've added something called Fediments in the background, which is, it's a form of distributed custody. Picture like a multi-sig with Lightning gateways to allow you to be able to do easy Lightning transactions. So that's already, it's like a community bank of sorts. And so you can use that initially and say, oh, just click this button, you're going to join this federation. And people don't really need to know specifically. You can just say it's a community bank for Bitcoin. And that allows them to instantly receive Lightning transactions, like $1, and they don't have to set up a channel. And that's great. And all is well and good. But what you can say is, within Mutiny, hey, once you get to a certain amount, once you build a balance, maybe you got 1 million sats, hit this button, and then you take full self-custody. It makes your own Lightning channel, and you have it all in the same app. And
Cool.
So for me, that was kind of the part that I loved about it, was that it allows easy onboarding, but it has a path to full self-custody within the app. and it allows people to move towards self-sovereignty without having to say, okay, you're going to get this app first, but then once you get enough, you're going to get a different app and you're going to switch over, and you're going to like, people are only willing to do so many things initially. And so I think I think they're on the right trajectory for
Yeah.
learning.
It like reduces the friction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. If people haven't tried Mutiny, you should check it out. I did do a tutorial on it just a couple weeks ago, so go take a peek. It's worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I've played around with it too, and you know, I've met Tony and Ben,
Yeah.
and they're great. I mean, they're always thinking about like how to make it easier and how
Yeah.
to make it as sovereign as possible.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, is really cool when you're thinking about the design of a wallet.
Yeah.
So
They did some cool stuff with Nostr integration too. Like you can,
yeah, that's kind of when I was talking to them. They were just like getting into that.
yeah, it makes it super social. So like imagine if like whatever social network you were on, your like all of your contacts just showed up in your Bitcoin wallet and you could just like send to them freely, and there's an integrated chat, and there's all it's great. I love what they've done with it. It's really cool, and I think it'll get better from here on in.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
if you guys haven't, and you're hearing this, haven't checked out Mutiny Wallet, well, go play around with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that like when people watch it, like just go play around with Bitcoin things. You know, have a little bit of Sats. You don't have to like use your whole stack, but just practice using these things. And I think even by learning by doing, that's one of the best ways to learn, right?
Yeah. Keep yourself comfortable, use small amounts, but putting in the work and learning right now, even if you make a little mistake and you lose a few sats here and there, it's what you're actually doing is you're preventing far greater losses down the road by practicing. So just, be cautious, especially with brand new things, but the more you know, the less likely you are to make a mistake later.
Got it.
Yeah.
I got a question in the replies. I think I know the answer, but is there a kid-focused wallet? That was one of the questions. I don't really. Maybe let's say like kid-friendly. Would you say?
Yeah, yeah. So funny enough, I with my daughter when she was younger, I she always liked to make little stores at home. And by stores, I mean she would just like grab stuff that I own and then sell it back to me. So she would set up a storefront and
Well,
it'd be like,
entrepreneur.
yeah, exactly. She'd yoink my car keys and like, a jacket of mine, or, a couple of her own toys.
That's smart. You need that. That's gonna be in demand.
Yeah, exactly. So basically she would just do it, and initially she was just miming, pretending that I'm giving her money. But then I just grabbed like we have a little iPad that like kid's iPad that she plays on. And I know this isn't in the States now, but I just put Wallet of Satoshi on it because I'm not sending meaningful amounts. But what she would do is I just taught her the buttons, and I said like, okay, just hit this button, and then you're going to type in how much that thing is. And like, luckily it's sats. So when she types in 1,000, I'm only sending 1,000 sats, but she'd go and she'd type in her number and she'd hit it. And then she'd see me pull out my phone and pay. And it gives her the little check mark. And, she's just happy about it. Good to go. So, unfortunately for people stateside, that might not be an option right now. But if you can get onto Albi, that is another option in terms of just easy kind of interface. And you can add it as an app on your phone, like as a progressive web app. And so you can just have that as an easy tap and receive and type in small amounts. There's a new one that I've been playing with a little bit called Speed. And it is, again, it's a simple custodial solution. But I mean, the name of the game in that instance is just ease of use. You just want it to be simple. And so that might be a decent option. But like for a kid that's just playing and you're sending over like a few bucks at a time, one of those simple Lightning wallets is more than going to cut it. Like, yeah.
Got it. What about, if you're, I got asked this question actually in the conference, which was if you have a friend or a family member and you're going to have them they want to take self custody and they're asking you like, what should I do? What's the best way to do it? What would you say to somebody who doesn't have any technical expertise, isn't very familiar with Bitcoin, they want to take self custody? Are you going to send them to like multi-sig right away, single sig, collaborative custody? Like, what do you think's like the right place for people to start with that?
Yeah. So I think for somebody like that, again, it's going to depend at what cadence and in what amounts they're buying. Because the answer for somebody that's, stacking $20 at per buy, every week or so, it's going to be very different from somebody that's like, I'm going to go buy $10,000 or $20,000 worth of Bitcoin right away, and then I'm going to keep stacking from there. So for the people that are doing small amounts, I will typically lead them to, the path of least resistance, in terms of, the self custody is kind of their main goal. So I'll lead them towards a trajectory that will allow them to achieve that. Again, in the context of somebody stacking small amounts. So perhaps either like Aqua, because it allows you to have a seed phrase backup and it uses Liquid in the background, but it interoperates with Lightning. So they can just kind of do Lightning withdrawals and they'll be fine. And when they're ready, they can swap it into on-chain and lead them down that path. And so I guess for that person, it would look something like either Aqua or maybe Mutiny, or those would probably be my two defaults. And then saying like, okay, you've got this path, and when you're ready, you hit this button and you have your on-chain Bitcoin, and then we're going to get you a hardware device. And the hardware device, I typically defer to two as easy onboarding, versus maybe a little bit more robust. And I both of them I like CoinKite for. So I like the tap signer as an easy thing. It's just like an NFC card, and it has a pin. And so the person can just have like, Nunchuck or Keeper, or there's a bunch of different apps that you can get. And it's literally when you want to spend, you type in your pin and then you tap the card.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty easy flow. For people that want something more robust but are still timid, I will lead them to a cold card, but I keep it basic out the gate. I say, okay, we're going to plug it in. You were going to set up your pin, and I will show them Sparrow, but I'll say, ignore all this other crap. Here's send and receive, and here's how to do it. And so I try to keep it pretty easy with that. And then I say, we can go down the path of learning more, but this will at least get you kind of set up and ready to go. I don't typically get people on multi-sig until they have significant amounts of Bitcoin and they're starting to get a little bit more worried about it. And they're going, oh crap, like I've got one device, one seed phrase. Then I'll lead them down that path. But it's the important part about education is not scoffing at somebody's first step, but making sure that they continue to take steps in their learning journey. So like if you throw too much at them out the gate, they're going to take a step and then they're going to turn right back around and walk out the door and say, this is too complicated for me. But if you can ease them into it based on how receptive they are to the education, then you can gradually lead them much further than they ever would have gone or thought possible.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what you're so good at, man, personally. So
thanks.
So if you're listening to this and you're just interested in the products, go check out Ben's YouTube channel, BTC Sessions. Probably well known by now, but well deserved.
Oh, thanks, man.
All your products. If you want to run a node, if you want to run a hardware wallet, go check them out. Yeah. Is there any like final comments you want? I mean, I've kind of dug into what I wanted to learn when I talked to you, but any final comments you want to bring up or anything?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that is top of mind for me right now is the idea of building out your local Bitcoin community. I think this is incredibly important. And, it's weird because had you asked me 2 months ago, I would have said our current trajectory is like massive crackdowns, and we were facing a lot of headwinds. Oddly enough, that seems to have done a bit of a 180, at least for the time being, where it's like both sides of the political spectrum, at least in the US, are starting to try to appeal to Bitcoiners in some way, shape, or form, even if it's one is just trying to play catch up to the other. But nonetheless, Bitcoin is an election issue, and there's going to be at least a degree of pandering for the next little bit. I get the feeling that we're in for a little bit of a speculative mess that goes outside the realm of Bitcoin. If I had to guess what the next 4 years is going to be like, and that's going to be unfortunate because a lot of people are going to make bad decisions and buy things that aren't Bitcoin. But it will also give us some runway to build out and make sure that we're resilient from top down pressures. And so, what my focus is for the foreseeable future is trying to build out a local circular economy where I live, and encouraging others to do the same where they live. And so, what this looks like is starting with the Bitcoiners where you live. So, find the meetup, go to the meetup, and talk at the meetup. And the way I started is I would start every meetup, and I don't organize it. I just asked if I could do this. Beginning of every meetup, hey, I'm Ben. I am looking for the following things that I can purchase with Bitcoin. I would like beef, eggs, chicken, baked goods, whatever. I'm looking for these things. Does anybody do this? Or does anybody know somebody who does? And you start to plant the seeds, and you start to kind of build out the ability to actually use your Bitcoin as well. Because in a nightmare scenario where Bitcoin on and off ramps are just gone and it's illegal and you must custody, the only resilient thing is peer-to-peer relationships. If you're low key stacking and trying to stay low key, what are you going to do with your Bitcoin when the off ramps and on ramps are no longer there? And the answer is hopefully you have relationships with people near you. So I started that way. And then once we kind of got a swell of enough people where that Bitcoiners already have skills, already run businesses, and already understand that Bitcoin is the better money, why on earth wouldn't they accept it? So we got a swell. We had our first SAT market here in Calgary back in December last year. With 3 weeks notice, we had 35 merchants get together, and we did like a big Christmas market, and it was great. We ran another one in March, and we've got another one coming up on July 1st, which is the day before a local event called the Bitcoin Rodeo, where a bunch of people are coming out and we're doing a little conference.
Is that where the big rodeo is?
It is.
Is that around the same time? I've been there.
You've been to the Calgary Stampede?
Yeah, I had some family members who lived in Calgary for a while. And so I went up and visited them and went to that rodeo. The Stampede, I mean, it's in like the biggest rodeo in the world or something.
Yeah, it's like there's a 7-story building that is just seats facing like a big
like it's a party. It's a party for sure.
Yeah. It's wild.
Is that Bitcoin event kind of around that? Stampede?
It's leading into it. So Canada Day is July 1st. That's when we're doing the market. The Bitcoin Rodeo is the 2nd and the 3rd, and then the Stampede starts like 2 days after that on the 5th, and it runs for 10 days. So there's a lot to do in and around there. So if anybody's in the Calgary area, come down.
This is probably a stupid question, but I'm assuming Canada Day is just like the 4th of July of Canada.
Basically, it's the 4th of July, but much more compliant.
That is my favorite when you see the fireworks that's going off in the United States. Like, bring back that energy.
Yeah,
but I'm actually going to be in Calgary on Canada Day, so I'm glad I talked to you. Yeah.
Oh crap! You should come to the market. We're doing it that morning.
I won't be in Calgary, but I'll be. Yeah, Canada's a big country. You know what I mean?
Oh, I thought you said Calgary, not
Canada. Maybe I did say okay. I just meant Canada though.
It's like one of those. Hey, do you know Bob from Canada? I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, come to our event. Well, it was fun talking to you as always. Where can people find your work, or if they want to reach out and talk to you? where can people find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are 8 years worth of free educational videos if you just go to YouTube and search BTC Sessions. And then, in terms of if you're looking through the years of content and free tutorials, and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, like I just need some additional help. I just need somebody to hold my hand through a few things." My other company that just launched is Bitcoin Mentor. So the website is bitcoinmentor.io. And I've got a team of curated educators that are basically able to walk you through anything and everything Bitcoin, just to make sure that you're all set. And I guess I'll show right after this, we're doing a spaces. So if you do have any burning technical Bitcoin questions, you can jump into the spaces like minutes after this interview. And our team is there. They do spaces 3 times a week, so they're always
Awesome.
there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, check it out. You've definitely held my hand a little bit, whether you realize it or not, over the years, my friend. It's been a
Glad.
lot of proof of work on that YouTube channel. So congrats to everything and all your success. And yeah, I just can't recommend you enough. So go check out BTC Sessions. Go check out that space. And best of luck. We'll have to talk again sometime soon, Ben.
Absolutely. It's good to see you remotely after seeing you in person just days before.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Well, have a great rest of your day. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed that. Always learn a lot from Ben in terms of all what's going on in terms of the products and the services that are getting built on Bitcoin. There's nobody better. So again, go check out BTC Sessions and let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Comment, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. That helps us get the Bitcoin message out to a wider audience. Really helps. So always appreciate your guys' support. Next week, we're going to break in to a new book, a Bitcoin book, and we're going to talk to the authors about this book. It's making waves. And so tune in next week. I'm really excited for that conversation. And don't forget, the next 10K right now on Swan, no fees. No fees on Swan for the next 10K. So now's the time to stack sats cheaply. Take advantage of the sideways price action. It is a dollar cost averager's dream to have this choppy sideways price action before the bull market kind of returns in full force. So go check it out. No fees for the next 10K at swan.com. Thanks, everybody. Can't wait to chat with you again next week. Always appreciate everything and have a great rest of your day or night if that's how you're listening. Cheers.